So you're thinking about moving to the Boise, Idaho area, but now your main focus is on what town do you want to live in? What suburb around Boise are you going to choose to call home? Well, today I'm going to break down two of the best here in our area. We're going to do a little bit of a head-to-head, figure out what might match your criteria just a little bit more. What's going to be the best fit for you and your family? We're of course going to talk about Boise, and then we're also going to talk about Eagle, Idaho. So if this is something that you've been thinking about, go ahead and stay tuned because we're going to get into it right now. A lot of times when people are looking to move to our area, they just kind of type in, hey, I am ready to move to Boise, Idaho. Of course, like most capital cities around our country, Boise has its own kind of metro area that's connected to it. It's a very small metro area right now. But there are a few suburbs and towns that are in close proximity. So even though you want to live in Boise, you might not want to be in Boise proper. It might not match the vibe and feel that you're looking for in particular. Today we're going to talk about Eagle, Idaho, and we're going to talk about Boise. I'm going to break them down into 5 different categories. We're going to talk about the vibe and the feel of the city. We're going to go into housing, kind of what's available, what should you expect cost-wise, everything like that. We're going to talk about the recreation and nature that's available. We're of course going to talk about entertainment, shopping, hospitals, that sort of stuff. And then we're going to wrap up with a quick discussion on what makes each of these cities good for families and why one or the other might be a better place for you to raise your family. As we're going through this, you might have some very specific questions, or I might gloss over something a little bit too quickly that you really wanted me to dive deeper into. This is the reminder, I am a local real estate agent up here in the Boise, Idaho area. So whether you're moving here in 9 days or 9 months, I would love to find a way to help make that move up here to Boise as smooth as possible. All of my information is down in the description below, so don't hesitate, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom, whatever it is, I would love to find a way to help. But with that being said, I want to get started with just the overall kind of vibe and feel of each of these cities. A little bit of backstory, Boise is the capital city of the Treasure Valley here. We're in the southwestern part of Idaho. Boise, being that capital city, is the largest city in the entire state of Idaho with just over 240,000 people. Because of this, the vibe in Boise is going to be faster paced than most of the rest of the valley. It really is the hub of everything here in the Treasure Valley. Something that I always like to point out though is this faster pace, this kind of capital city urban atmosphere in Boise. If you're moving from somewhere else, that is going to relatively feel so much slower paced than a lot of the other places that have those larger cities. If you're coming from a Los Angeles, Boise is going to feel like nothing. It is going to feel very low key. But when we're comparing it to the other areas around town, it is definitely a little bit faster paced because it is that downtown. There's more people, there's more commuting, traffic, everything like that. Whereas on the flip side, Eagle is a smaller town just to the northwest of Boise. It's going to have just under 30,000 people. Because of this, Eagle is just much slower paced than Boise. It is a small town. It has that kind of slow, methodical, relaxing kind of small town charm to it. And this small town feel is really highlighted by the numerous local restaurants that are in Eagle. You're not going to see a ton of chains. You're going to see a lot of small lunch spots, breakfast spots, places to go out for dinner and date night. You're also going to have a lot of those small town events. So a big one here is Eagle Fun Days. It happens every single summer. They kind of take out downtown. You've got food trucks, different booths, you've got different vendors, live music, all sort of things just to kind of bring the community together. Now, when I'm talking about Eagle downtown, this is not going to be a place that's going to really have frankly, any nightlife at all. Jumping back over to Boise, however, you're really gonna find something for everyone. I think one of the highlights of Boise itself is there are so many different neighborhoods kind of tucked within the same city. There's gonna be a ton of different cultural events. There's gonna be a ton of festivals. Anything that you're interested in, Boise is gonna have something for you. This is gonna be kind of in the realm of the plethora of different types of restaurants, bars, coffee shops, everything downtown. Whereas in Eagle, you might only have 1 or 2 coffee shops. In Boise, you're very easily gonna have 15 to 20 different local coffee shops to go and check out, find the best spot for you. Of course, Boise is our capital city, so this is where you're also going to have the concerts, you're going to have the sporting events, everything like that happens in downtown Boise. You're also going to have a ton of festivals throughout the year. So we have Treefort Music Fest that happens every single year, kind of takes over all of downtown. There's a ton of different kind of forts that are done. There's Ale Fort, which is all about breweries, beer, wine, all of that. You're going to have Comedy Fort, which is stand-up comics. You're going to have Hack Fort. You're going to have a ton of these different kind of like specialized niche forts that allow people to kind of come out and find something in their interest. And then to kind of cap it all off, what Treefort really is again, it's a music festival. So you're gonna have stages and different venues all over downtown. Really is a great thing to see. It takes over downtown for about a week every single year. And then you're gonna have a ton of the other festivals throughout the year where you're gonna have Pride every single year. You're gonna have Oktoberfest. You're gonna have different cultural events, holidays, everything like that. Boise, of course, is going to be the hub. So if proximity to that kind of activity is important to you, it's gonna be kind of hard to replace in most of the areas around town. And then I don't want to forget, and it's something that I always want to touch on, we've got something super unique in Boise with the Idaho Shakespeare Festival. So all summer, they bring these theater troupes out, actual professional theater troupes, to perform, I think it's 5 plays every single year for a couple weeks. It's in an amphitheater. It is a great way to spend a night out, enjoy some of the weather, get out and do something that's just a little bit different. Jumping into our next category, we're gonna talk a little bit about the housing markets in each of these cities and just from a broad viewpoint, kind of the cost of living in each of them particularly. When we're talking housing, Eagle is going to be more expensive. The median price in Eagle is about as high as it's gonna get in our Treasure Valley. Boise is typically number 2. As of filming this video, when we're talking about construction and kind of that median price point, we're seeing the price per square foot in Eagle being about $20 more per square foot, from $312 up to $332. And then as of filming this video, and I repeat, as of filming this video, these stats change literally weekly. So this is not something that is set in stone. So of course, reach out, I can get you the newest stats. The median price in Boise is $620,000. And then the median price in Eagle is all the way up at $895,000. Again, median prices, just like all stats, there are a ton of things that can kind of influence these numbers one way or another. I really do think Eagle is propped up by some of the really high-end properties. But when we're looking at a typical starter home, when I'm talking to clients and I don't know much about them yet, where I typically will start is in Boise. If you want normal starter entry-level home, nothing overly special, you're gonna want somewhere around that $400,000, maybe just a little bit less, but once we get too far low, it's gonna be difficult. In Eagle, on the other hand, I really want you to be at that $450,000, potentially $500,000, because there are things that pop up a little closer to that $400,000 mark, but they typically go extremely fast and they are insanely popular and rare at the same time. Something to keep in mind there is part of why Eagle's overall kind of housing cost is so expensive is going to be there's a huge swath of homes that are available kind of in this really cool region of Eagle down by the river that are going to be that $2, $3, $4 million price point, which is just hard to touch in a lot of our valleys. So that definitely brings their number up a bit. But at the same time, Boise has got the foothills. They have their own riverfront neighborhoods. There are a ton of those kind of higher level homes in Boise. So you really have that option both sides. But when we're talking in the grand scheme of things, Eagle is going to be a little bit more expensive than Boise on the actual housing costs. One of the things that's going to set Boise apart from Eagle is just the vast different types of neighborhoods, types of homes and communities that you're going to be able to find in Boise itself. This means if you're looking for something that has more of that downtown kind of condo high-rise feel, they've got that. If you're looking for something that has that riverfront property, Boise has something that it can offer you. Same thing if you're looking for more of that historic kind of cottage style extension of downtown, Boise's gonna have a couple of neighborhoods with the North End, the West End, East End, all of this to really offer you that experience. And then, like I said, they've got the foothills, which most of our valley can't really compete with just because of location. And then finally, they, of course, just like everywhere else, have got a ton of kind of that classic suburban neighborhood style of home. Eagle, on the other hand, is gonna be primarily suburbs. You're gonna have some townhome condo communities right in downtown, but you're not going to have any high-rise buildings that you're going to be overlooking the valley. Everything's going to be a little bit smaller and really primarily that suburb feel. You are going to have access on the northern edge of Eagle to some larger kind of like acreage lots, which can be super unique. And of course, like I said just a minute ago, Eagle has a ton of riverfront kind of communities with man-made lakes, all sorts of different waterfront opportunities. Something that I always like to touch on is garages. What is popular, what is normal in different areas of town? When we're talking about Boise, garages are very popular. There's something that you're gonna see a lot. People tend to just assume that they're gonna have one in their home. There are gonna be certain areas where an attached garage might be difficult, or there are going to be just some lots that can't fit an attached or a detached garage. You're really going to find these closer to downtown, in the north end, the Boise Bench, depending on the size of the lot, the construction, everything. Having a garage isn't 100% a certainty, but garages are going to be more common than not in Boise. And then when we're talking about Eagle, looking at the single family homes, because townhomes and condos, everything's kind of up in the air, but when we're looking at single family homes, pretty much every home in Eagle is going to have a garage. It is just normal suburban life. Everybody has their garage. The cool thing though is you're going to see, especially in the newer communities, 3-car garages are very popular. They are very easy to find. Lots out here just a little bit bigger, so it's easier to have that larger footprint with that 3-car garage. And then you're also going to see, if you're new to the area or you haven't really seen this type of construction before, you're going to see these homes that have a 3-car garage, but they're going to have that third bay being a lot taller than what a normal garage will look like. This might look weird at times, but it's a really big hit up here. These are what we call RV garages. Sometimes we'll call them boat bays, depending on how high they are. And in Eagle, they are really easy to find. It is gonna up the value of your home and therefore that purchase price. But if that's something that's important to you, to be able to store your toys at your house, not have to buy extra storage, anything like that, Eagle is gonna be a good place to look. Whereas Boise, on the other hand, is gonna be kind of tough. Just this last year, I had a client that wanted to live in Boise so bad. They love the foothills. They had a really good budget, so that really wasn't constraining them as much, but we just could not find property in Boise for the most part that had that kind of RV garage style. It just wasn't super popular back in the day, and it does require different kind of levels of home in terms of square footage, and then lots have to be bigger to accommodate them. Now, when we're talking about non-housing costs, I'm not gonna get too in depth here because the way that our valley is kind of set up, downtown Eagle and downtown Boise are only about 20 minutes apart from each other, and the towns actually kind of like share a border. So because of this, a lot of the non-housing costs, when we're talking about groceries, we're talking about utilities, a lot of it is going to be extremely similar. If you want a full breakdown on kind of the cost of living up here in the Boise area, click on this video. It has a full breakdown of that. But when you're comparing these two cities, you're not going to find much of a difference there. We use the same power companies in both, the same gas companies, exact same grocery stores, etc. Let's shift our focus and talk a little bit about the recreation and nature that is available in Boise and in Eagle respectively. One of the highlights of our entire area in Boise and Eagle particularly is we've got the Boise River that runs directly through our downtown, extends all the way up through Eagle and out to Star. So both Boise and Eagle are gonna have that river kind of activity that you can go down and do. And with this here comes the Boise Greenbelt. Boise Greenbelt is about a 25-mile stretch that goes from the very tip of Boise in that southeast Boise range all the way out, and it ends kind of right past downtown Star. The Greenbelt gives you really good access to, of course, the river to be able to go down, take your dog, take your kids, play in the water, fish, whatever you wanna do. But it also allows for a great place to ride a bike, go for a run, take your dogs out for a walk. The Greenbelt is really something that if you choose to live here, you're probably gonna be visiting every once in a while. Boise in particular is gonna be very bike friendly. If you are somebody that likes to bike to and from work, if you like other modes of transportation outside of just that classic car from point A to point B, Boise is gonna be probably your best bet here in the entire valley. Part of this has to do with it is the capital city, so the infrastructure and kind of that public transportation setup has just been more of a focus there than some of the surrounding areas. We see this a lot with kind of the bicycle friendly amenities. Downtown Boise and Boise as a whole, to be honest, is going to have a lot more of the bike lanes. They're going to have kind of like the bike stations with the little tools and everything. Everything about Boise, they really want to encourage that green energy. They want to encourage that alternative method of transportation. All of this, if you're a bike person, you're gonna absolutely love Boise. And on that same note, if you are a big hiker and you want that close proximity, you wanna be able to get from work, go straight for a hike before you're going home, Boise offers this because of just the close proximity of the foothills. You can be right outside of downtown in the north end to Camel's Back Park, which has its own hike kind of up the incline, but also it is kind of the mouth back to Hulls Gulch and all sorts of hiking trails. You're gonna have the military reserve, you're gonna have the Table Rock hike. Everything in Boise, when you're going out to those foothills, there are more trails than I can count. And then finally, you're gonna have access to a ton of parks, both small neighborhood parks as well as massive kind of big destination parks, I guess is a good way to say them. You're gonna have Ann Morrison, Julia Davis, Catherine Albertson, you're gonna have Kleiner Park, all sorts of different options for you to go out, play some games, whether it's with your dog, with your kid, spend a day, have some fun. If you're into disc golf, Boise's gonna have quite a few different disc golf courses kind of sprinkled around town. And then since it's completely catching the world by storm, pickleball is starting to become a real thing here in Boise. We're seeing a lot of those parks, different tennis clubs and such, start to adapt some of their actual courts into dedicated pickleball courts. So if that's something that you're into, my wife and I just got into it about a couple of months ago. You're gonna have some good options. When we're talking golf, however, Boise is gonna have a few different courses for you to kind of choose from. There's gonna be different levels of kind of difficulty. There's gonna be private courses. You can get kind of like the country club membership, or you're gonna have a ton of public courses that have different kind of styles for how you like to play, your level of play, etc. Eagle also has a couple of opportunities for golf, but when you're looking at just sheer number, Boise is gonna have more than Eagle does. But again, this is one of the things that makes our valley a pretty cool place to live. I live in Eagle right now. I golf mostly in Boise just because that's where most of them are, and I'm not driving more than 15 or 20 minutes to a golf course. And this kind of leads into the last point that just overall, you have really easy access to the outdoors in Boise. Everything is in such close proximity that if you're looking for a certain activity, you're gonna be able to find it. And of course, when you're kind of trying to escape up into the mountains, you just take Highway 55 and you're gonna be out to Garden Valley within an hour. You can be rafting, you can be hiking, you can be snowshoeing in the winter. Bogus Basin is just about a 45-minute drive. You have got so many opportunities to get out, summer, winter, fall, all of the different outdoor activities you have in your backyard up here. And in the case of comparing Boise and Eagle, Eagle is gonna have that same thing. Boise and Eagle are situated kind of on the northern edge of our valley, really close to that Highway 55. So they are very close to all of those outdoor activities. You're gonna save about 15 to 20 minutes on any commute being in Boise or Eagle. Eagle specifically, they do have the Greenbelt like I was talking about. They've got a ton of parks themselves. Eagle puts a big focus on kind of that natural space, keeping everything open, but you're gonna just have less because there's less people in Eagle and there's less geographic area. So when comparing the two cities in their kind of recreation and nature kind of offerings, they're kind of hard to differentiate because they're still in such close proximity to each other and they share a lot of those really cool characteristics about our valley. But when you're looking at just the sheer number, Boise's gonna offer a ton more. But Eagle has a lot of those same amenities just on a much smaller scale, and you might just have to drive to some of the other ones. You won't be quite as close. Now, we're gonna shift into the culture, entertainment, shopping, restaurants, all of those different options in each of these cities. And I think this is gonna be the big one that's gonna separate the two cities. To get started, we're just gonna talk about Eagle. Eagle is a small town. It does not have extensive commercial districts. It doesn't have a ton of big things to go and do. It doesn't have a ton of different restaurant centers, anything like that. It is a small town with a downtown, a couple of other little shopping areas for you to go to, but all of the restaurants for the most part, outside of some fast food, are gonna be local restaurants. You're gonna have some really cool fine dining options, lunch spots, brunch spots, everything like this. Eagle has a ton to offer, but all of this feeds into that small town culture that I was talking about earlier in the video. You're gonna have those small town events. You're gonna have Eagle Fun Days. You're gonna have a harvest festival. You're gonna have a local farmer's market every Saturday during the summer. Eagle isn't gonna have the same big list of options of things to go and do that I'm gonna get into here in Boise here in a second, But that's part of the charm. People like that small town, slower feel. They still have the access to everything in Boise 15, 20 minutes away, but they don't have it in their backyard, and some people really like that. Boise, on the other end, has everything. We are still a growing city, so there are going to be things that we don't have access to here. But when we're comparing this to most of the area, if you're looking for something, a different type of cuisine, if you're looking for something to go out and do, Boise's going to be your place that's going to have most of it. And this is just going to continue. When companies are moving stuff here, Topgolf just arrived last year. They're looking in Boise. They're not looking to the outskirts right now. When we're talking about culture and kind of entertainment events, Boise has got a pretty long list. Just to name a few, we've got Oktoberfest, we've got Tree Fort that I talked about. We've got different Christmas events with kind of the Festival of Trees downtown. You're gonna have the Pride Celebration. You're gonna have Goat Head Fest, Boise Music Festival. You're gonna have Hyde Park Street Fair, the Spirit of Boise, where we release all of these hot air balloons up into the air for about 4 weekends here in kind of the end of August is where it typically happens. All of these cool kind of traditions and festivals that happen year after year after year. Every single town will have them, and Eagle has a few, but Eagle has 3 or 4 that people look forward to. Boise is gonna have 3 or 4 a month. There's just gonna be more stuff going on. So if you're somebody that wants that, hey, what are we doing this weekend? I need an activity to go out and do, a new adventure. Boise's gonna have a much longer list of things to go and do. And the same can be said for the restaurant scene. Boise's just gonna have a ton more options. They have a lot of those local kind of restaurant feel that Eagle does have, but they also have the chain restaurants if you're craving something very particular. If you're looking for an authentic, kind of more specific cultural food or cuisine, Boise's gonna have that option. We have a street kind of orchard just out of downtown Boise. A lot of really good, more authentic cultural restaurants are down there. So if you want to try something out, you're gonna find a cool option in Boise. So if you're looking for more of that diverse set of food options, Orchard and then Boise as a whole is gonna be a really good choice for you. Boise also has a much more vast brewery and wine scene than Eagle does. Eagle is getting a brewery tap house in downtown. It's currently in construction. There are a couple of wineries kind of on the very edge of Eagle, whereas Boise just has a brewery pretty much, it feels like, on every street corner now. There's all sorts of different companies bringing and doing a tasting room here, opening their own pub, everything like that, as well as there are a ton of wine tasting rooms down in Garden City in particular is a great place for this. So if you're looking for a casual place to go out for happy hour, a drink on the weekend, you're looking for some trivia, pretty much every weeknight there's somewhere for trivia in downtown Boise, you're gonna have some good options. And of course, Boise is gonna have the nightlife scene. Boise is our downtown. I know that I've said that a few times, but Boise's gonna be the place to go if you're trying to go out, dinner and drinks, you wanna look for more of the nightclub thing, you're trying to get that nightlife feel. Boise is gonna blow Eagle out of the water, but like I said, this is part of the charm of Eagle. People like that they don't have access to that same stuff. They like the quieter part of town. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for. And then when we're talking about healthcare and kind of access to hospitals and such, both Boise and Eagle have very direct access to hospitals. You're gonna have just a few hospitals around kind of downtown Boise, one kind of off the connector, one off Eagle Road. You're gonna have a couple of different medical plazas in Eagle themselves. You're really not gonna be more than 10 to 15 minutes away from a hospital almost anywhere in Boise and Eagle. And that kind of leads into the final thing that we're going to talk about. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what makes each of these cities a family-friendly place. To get started, niche.com, they ranked Eagle as the #1 best Boise suburb to raise a family. This is kind of the place that people do like to have their kids grow up. They like the schools, they like the activities, they like the safety, they like everything about it. If you want a full breakdown on kind of the overall Boise, Idaho area and the crime statistics, is this a safe place to live? I have a full video kind of breaking down, comparing each of the cities as well as comparing the cities here, Boise, to some of the other cities kind of around our country. Click the video up at the top, I'll give you a much fuller breakdown. But on the whole, both Boise and Eagle are gonna be pretty safe places to live according to a lot of those crime statistics. Overall, as somebody who's lived in both Boise and Eagle, I can just tell you that the overall feeling here is you will feel safe and secure, and that is something that we are lucky to have. Now, when we talk about schools, both Boise and Eagle are going to have schools that are higher rated based off niche.com, great schools. Do some of your own research with all of this. Crime in schools in particular, do your own research. I know I say that in most of the videos, but when we're talking about schools in particular, there are going to be a lot of different things. There are going to be the Renaissance schools that are more hands-on experience. You're going to have charter schools, public schools, faith-based schools, all of these different things. Eagle has some of our higher rated schools in the overall area. I know people who absolutely love Eagle schools. This is where they want to send their kids. They focus on those neighborhoods. Boise, on the other hand, they have got so many different schools that you're going to find a ton of different opinions. You're going to find schools that people absolutely love, schools that people don't like. You're going to find schools that offer this program, and this program for your high school students, for example. These schools don't. Boise has a ton of those options. If there's a certain school that you're looking at, do some of the research, figure out if it's somewhere that your kid is going to be. This is somewhere, again, that I will talk to you if we're ever looking for a home. If you have a school that you want to make sure your kids are going to, I'm going to show you homes that are in their overall boundary, but I always say triple check because you never know. Everything kind of changes. So overall, Boise and Eagle are two of the best places here in our valley. Again, if you have a specific question on something that I talked about that you didn't quite get the full explanation on, all of my info is down in the description. Feel free, leave a comment if there's something that I missed that you wanted me to highlight, something that you disagreed with, whatever it is. The whole purpose of this is to help you start to make a decision between two cities that have a lot of similarities. What are the small things that are going to drive you to Boise versus Eagle? At the end of the day, if they're both still on your list, that is totally fine. But hopefully there was a little bit of value here, and I will see you all on the next one.